everybody, this is Courtney with Fiber Fox Studios, and today I am going to be teaching you guys this really gorgeous pattern number 22, which is a shrunken down version of the pattern that I've been showing in several different videos. The pattern that we're teaching today has been broken down so that it will all fit into one video. We're doing a total of 19 rows. We are working in a multiple of 16 plus 4, and I do want to show you guys the pattern is available on the Etsy store as a chart. So the chart is available on the Etsy store for the exact pictures that you saw in the beginning of this video. So there's a chart set for the tutorial, but I also have a chart bundle that includes not only that set for the tutorial, what I'm teaching here today, but I have this chart right here ready to be released finally. I know some people have been waiting on it. This is the inspiration basically for today's tutorial. So this particular design is very large and it is too much for me to fit into one video here. We'd have like a 3-hour long tutorial. So I have done the charts. They are available on the Etsy store as a bundle. So you get not only this that you're seeing here, you receive what I'm teaching here in the video for the tutorial, and you receive some different variations of this chart that have this section right here filled in solid, so the design's a little less busy. And then there's a few other options. One looks like a plus sign. One's just an outline with the center here all filled in. So that is over on the Etsy store for those of you who are interested in the charts rather than the tutorial. And just keep in mind, if you are jumping over there, you don't have to purchase both sets. If you only want the chart that's being taught, the design that's going to be taught in the video today, that it was the thumbnail picture and the pictures at the beginning of this video, that you can purchase just that for a lower price. Or you can get that chart plus charts to create this and several variations of it as the bundle set. So I just wanted to make that really clear. You, of course, never need to purchase the charts. I am going to teach the design that was shown in the thumbnail and pictures today in the video. Down below in the description, you can find the links. You can also find a lot of extra information, including the yarn that I'm using today. So we're going to jump into this tutorial. As I explained, it is a multiple of 16 plus 4. For my more advanced crocheters that are really familiar with Mosaic and been following since I started teaching these, you can go ahead and skip to row number 3. All the row start times are down in the description for your convenience, so you can just skip ahead and not watch how we set up our chain and everything to get started on the design. I do film all of these so that they're very beginner friendly, or I hope that they're very beginner friendly. And if you need to move a little bit faster, there's 3 dots up in the, I believe it for everybody, it's going to be the top right corner of your screen. You can click on that and actually speed up the video playback so that you do not have to go as slow as I'm going, and that's for the more advanced people. But hopefully everybody will enjoy this video. As always, I appreciate you guys for watching. So we begin this design by doing a slip knot. So we're going to choose color A. So we're going to begin working our piece in color A. You are going to need 2 colors of yarn. So I'm going to be using this peach color as my color A. Form your slip knot, slip that onto your hook. Also, keep in mind down there in the description, I do have some different project ideas for you with the starting chains that you need to work up in order to start those projects. So we have our slip knot on our hook. We're going to grab our yarn and pull through that loop that's on the hook, forming our first chain. From my newbies, people who are not familiar with this technique, it's overlay mosaic crochet that we're doing here. And at this point, when you get your first chain done, you can slip a stitch marker or scrap piece of yarn into this first chain so that you do not lose track of it. So we are going to chain in multiples of 16. So I've got 1 chain. I'm going to grab again, pull through that loop that's on the hook for a second chain. And we're just going to continue to work in the same manner until we have reached the desired size for our project. So you're going to continue to chain in multiples of 16, and then you will add 4 more chains onto the end of that. So you can pause here and meet back up with me when you have a starting chain ready, and we'll move on to row number 1. We're back and I have a total of 36 chains ready to go. For Mosaic Crochet, we are going to be switching colors every single row, but for row 1, we need to stay with the same exact color that we did our starting chain with. So this is color A, and we are going to begin row 1 now. Row 1 begins by skipping the very first chain, and hopefully my new camera is focusing, but we're going to skip the very first chain and work into the second. So you skip 1, come here to the second, and insert your hook going under that V. We want to be completely in the stitch so that we're all the way under the V. Now we're going to grab our yarn and pull up a loop, and we're going to complete our first traditional single crochet. Each and every row will begin with a traditional single crochet in the very first stitch. From here, we're going to begin working in the back loop only. So what I mean by that is we're going to look at our V's. So you see the V's here. We're going to pick up just one side. So we're picking up the back loop right there. Hopefully you can see I've only got one loop. We're going to grab and pull up a loop, grab and pull through 2. So we're doing a back loop only single crochet in each and every stitch all the way down this row, and then in the very last stitch we're going to do our traditional single crochet. So what you want to do is continue to work in the back loop only, grabbing and pulling up a loop, grabbing again and pulling through 2, and doing that back loop only single crochet. So each and every stitch gets one of these except for the very last stitch in the row. So you can pause here and meet back up with me at the end of the row when you have one last stitch ready to work, and we will do that stitch together. I'm now here at the end of row 1. I have one stitch left right there to work into. So I'm going to insert this time going under that V. So that we want to make sure we always do our traditional single crochet. So we want to see both those loops on our hook. We're going to do this traditional single crochet now by grabbing our yarn and pulling up a loop. And we are going to grab and pull through 2. And that ends our row 1. It's really important that you do the traditional single crochet in the first and last stitch of every row, because that's how we maintain our nice straight even sides. So this is what your work is looking like after completing row 1. Now we need to bind off because we're about to switch colors for row 2, moving to color B. To bind off, this is what I like to do. You can bind off however you prefer. I like to chain up 2. Now I will clip my yarn and pull on through, letting that tail come all the way out. And now I'm going to grab the tail with my thumb and index, and then I'm going to position my other hand just above those 2 chains, and I'm going to pull up on this tail as I pull down on those loops, and it's going to form that little knot right there at the end. We're ready now to move on to row 2. For row 2, I'm going to be using this blue color yarn. You can use whatever color you want. We need to again form our slip knot just like we did before. And we are going to come down here to the first stitch of the row again, so we don't flip our work when we're doing overlay mosaic. All of our mosaic work and the design is going to be on one side. The reverse side, the wrong side of your work, will all be striped. And we just simply pick up our work and we identify our very first stitch. This is one of the things that is really important when we're doing this technique. As you can see, when we did row 1, we had a true turning chain. And that's what you see right here on the side. This is a turning chain. It will move, it'll scoot down. Our first stitch in the row will not. So we're looking for the V's. Once you identify your V, make sure that you are not working into the side little bump there. It will move around like I'm saying. You know, you can slide it up and down. We want to get that out of our way and make sure that we're going into this very first stitch. So we insert under the V again, just like we did before, we want to make sure that we are inserting under both of those loops. We can now add on our little slip knot, and pull up that loop. Now we can allow our tail to fall. We grab our working yarn and chain 1, and then we must go back into the same exact first stitch. Under the V again, we want to make sure we're always under the V in the first stitch. Trying to make sure you guys can see. And we will grab our yarn and pull up a loop. Grab our yarn and pull through 2. And that completes our traditional single crochet. For row 2, our repeat is exactly the same as what we did back on row number 1. We are doing our single crochets in the back loop only. So the back loop only single crochets, 1 in each and every stitch all the way down the row. You don't want to stretch it out too much. I kind of over exaggerate that so you guys can see what I'm doing. But you can pause here and meet back up with me when you've completed all of your stitches and have only 1 left, and we'll do that very last stitch in the row together. So keep working the same manner, and we'll be back in just a moment. We're here at the end of row number 2. We have 1 last stitch left for us to work into. So we are going to do that together so you guys can get the hang of it. So here's our very last stitch in the row. We want to make sure that we go under that V again. We're doing our traditional single crochet. So we're under the V, grab and pull up a loop, grab and pull through 2, and that completes row number 2. Now you're going to bind off, and you'll meet back up with me when you're ready to move on to row number 3. Row 3 will begin now. This is what your work is looking like. I know it doesn't look like much, but our mosaic work starts now. So we are doing our slip knot again. We will come here to the very first stitch in the row, and it's really important. Even though we don't have a true turning chain here, we did a chain 1 to start our previous row. So we want to make sure that we tighten this up by pulling on the tail, get that out of the way, and make sure that we are going into this very first stitch. Really important. We want to get in there. If you do not, you will throw off your count for the entire row and all following rows. So we are into that stitch again. We're under the V in the very first stitch of the row. We can now add our slip knot onto our hook, tighten that down, and draw up that loop. And I'm getting all these tails out of the way. And we draw up our loop. We now chain 1 again, and we come back down into the same exact first stitch, insert into that stitch, grab and pull up a loop, grab and pull through 2. And that is our first stitch in the row for row number 3. We now are going to begin our repeat for this row. Our repeat starts with 5 drop down double crochets. So I'm going to show you exactly what I mean by that. So we are going to wrap our yarn around our hook. We identify our very next stitch. We slide down 2 rows below, and we're looking for this little bump. It is the front loop that's left by us doing the back loop only. So we want to turn and pick up that loop, grab and pull up a loop. Nice loose tension. You do not want to get too tight and draw this loop up. So you want to keep it nice and loose. Grab and pull through 2, grab and pull through 2, and that's our first drop down double crochet. We're going to need to do a total of 5, so there's 1. We're going to wrap our yarn again, identify our very next stitch. You want to make sure that you know exactly where your next stitch is. If you're unsure, you can always fold this back, and there's 1 stitch back here. 1 drop down covers 1 stitch, and that will help you make sure that you're staying in position. So we're going to wrap again, find our very next stitch, slide down 2 rows below, and see that's the little bump we're looking for. We're going to turn and pick that up. We want to grab our yarn and pull up a loop, nice loose tension, grab and pull through 2, grab and pull through 2. So that's our second drop down double crochet. All the double crochets that we do will be drop downs. All the single crochets will be in the back loop only. We're going to wrap again, find our next stitch, slide down, directly down, just slide, pick up 2 rows below. We're going 2 rows below and connecting color to color. So whatever's on your hook is where you're going to connect to. So there's our 3rd drop down double crochet. We're going to wrap again, identify our very next stitch, slide down 2 rows below, picking up that bump, grab and pull up a loop with nice loose tension, grab and pull through 2, grab and pull through 2. So that's our 4th drop down. So we have 1 more to do. So wrap, identify the very next stitch, slide down 2 rows below, finding that little bump, grab and pull up a loop, grab and pull through 2, grab and pull through 2. Now we're going to continue our repeat for this row with 7 back loop only single crochets. So we're going to be working in the back loop only, doing our single crochets, and we need a total of 7. So there's 1. Here's number 2. Here's number 3. Number 4. Number 5. Number 6. And number 7. Now we need to move on by doing 4 drop down double crochets to complete our repeat. So we're going to wrap our yarn around our hook. We're going to identify our next stitch. We're going to slide down 2 rows below, directly down, identify that little bump right there, the front loop that was left behind. We're going to pick that up. We're going to grab and pull up a loop. We're going to grab and pull through 2 and grab and pull through 2. Wrap again. So that's our first drop down. We're going to do our second. Grab and pull up a loop. Grab and pull through 2. Grab and pull through 2. So there's number 2. Wrap again. Find that next stitch, slide down, looking right there for that front loop. Grab and pull up a loop, grab and pull through 2, grab and pull through 2. And when you do this one last time, we're going to identify our next stitch, slide down, finding that little bump, grab and pull up a loop, grab and pull through 2, grab and pull through 2. And that ends our repeat for this row. We're going to do the repeat together one more time so that everybody gets the hang of it. I won't be able to do that every single row, but we're going to do that. We're going to begin the repeat again. For those of you who are advanced, you're just going to continue on down your work. You don't need to watch this instruction. You'll do 5 of your drop down double crochets, 7 back loop only single crochets, and the repeat ends with 4 drop down double crochets. For everyone else, we're going to begin our repeat again now. So we are going to wrap our yarn around our hook, identify our next stitch, slide down 2 rows below, finding that little bump. We want to get up underneath that and grab and pull up a loop. And this is the beginning of our repeat, so we're going to do 5 drop down double crochets. Sorry about that, yarn's getting caught. So there's my first drop down double crochet, wrap again, find my second stitch, and complete my second drop down. Sorry about that. Grab and pull up a loop, grab and pull through 2, grab and pull through 2. Now we need to complete our third for the beginning of this repeat. Drop down, find our bump, grab and pull up our loop, grab and pull through 2, grab and pull through 2. So that completes our third. Right here is where we're counting. Now we're going to do another drop down, wrap, identify that next stitch, slide down 2 rows below, picking up that bump, grab and pull up your loop, grab and pull through 2, grab and pull through 2. We need to do this one more time. So wrap our yarn around our hook, identify our very next stitch, slide directly down 2 rows below, finding that little bump, and we are going to complete our drop down double crochet. Grab and pull through 2, grab and pull through 2. Now we need to continue our repeat. We're going to continue with our back loop only single crochets. We need a total of 7 over the next 7 stitches. So we're going to find our very next stitch, pick up the back loop only, grab and pull up a loop, grab and pull through 2. So that's our first back loop. So we're doing single crochets in the back loop for a total of 7 of those. So here's number 2. Here's number 3. Number 4. Number 5. Number 6. And number 7. Now we need to do 4 drop down double crochets. So we identify our next stitch, slide down 2 rows below, finding that little bump. It's our front loop. Grab and pull up a loop, grab and pull through 2, grab and pull through 2. So there's our second, or there's our first, and we're going to do our second. We're doing a total of 4 here. So we're doing our drop down double crochet again. So here's number 2. We're going to wrap, identify our next stitch, slide down 2 rows below. We're going to do number 3. And our repeat ends with the 4th drop down double crochet. So now you may pause here. You're going to keep working the same exact repeat on down the rest of your row. Our repeat began over here with 5 of our drop down double crochet, so working in that front loop, 7 back loop only single crochets, and our repeat ends with 4 drop down double crochets. So meet back up with me when you are ready to do your row end, and we'll be doing that together. We're here at the end of row 3. We are now going to do the row end together. To complete your row ends on this pattern, you're just going to be starting your mosaic repeat over. So you'll start your repeat over for this. We have 2 stitches left, so we're going to be doing our repeat here. So we're going to wrap our yarn to do our drop down double, because that's what our repeat begins with. So slide down 2 rows below and pick up that loop or that little bump. Grab our yarn and pull up a loop. Grab our yarn and pull through 2. Grab our yarn and pull through 2. And now we can't continue our repeat because we have our last stitch in the row. So for our last stitch in the row, we know we are always going to do our traditional single crochet. So you'll just complete your traditional single crochet. Now we're going to chain 2, clip our yarn, and move on up for row 4. Here's what our work is looking like. For row 4, we're going to begin by switching back to color B. So for me, that's the blue color here. And now I want to point out, we want to make sure that we are moving that chain 1 that we did out of our way. We want to identify our V and make sure that we are going under that V to begin this row. It's how you begin all your rows, and I'm not going to show that again. So if you need more help, you can always rewind or tap down that description to go to the start of the row. We are going to join on with color B, grab and pull up that loop. Now we let that tail fall, we chain 1, we go back down here into the same stitch. So we're working into that stitch again. I'll try not to bump the camera. We grab and pull up a loop, grab and pull through 2, and that completes our traditional single crochet for the start of this row. We will now begin working our repeat again. Our repeat for row 4 begins with 5 of our single crochets worked here in the back loop. So we're just going to pick up that back loop, grab and pull up a loop, grab and pull through 2. We're going to do 5 of these. So there's number 1. Here's number 2. Here is number 3. Number 4. And number 5. We now do one of our drop down double crochets right here into this very next stitch. So we're just going to slide down 2 rows below, picking up that bump, grab and pull up a loop, nice loose tension, grab and pull through 2, grab and pull through 2. We now do 4 of our single crochets worked in the back loop. So we identify that back loop and we're going to do 4. 1, here's number 2, number 3, number 4, I'm sorry, we need to do 5. I'm sorry. So we do 5. Sorry about that. And now we do 1 drop down double crochet right here into this very next stitch, sliding down 2 rows below, finding that front loop, grab and pull up a loop, nice loose tension, grab and pull through 2, grab and pull through 2. And now we are going to do 4 back loop only single crochets over these next 4 stitches. So we insert right here to the back loop, pulling up our loop, grab and pull through 2. So that's our first single crochet worked in the back loop. We're going to do a total of 4 of these. So here's number 2. Here's number 3. And number 4. And that ends our repeat for this row. So our repeat began over here with 5 back loop only single crochets, 1 drop down double crochet, 5 back loop only single crochets, 1 drop down double crochet, and our repeat ends with 4 of our back loop only single crochets. So you're going to pause here and work that same set of stitches over and over on down the rest of your row, just like I showed you down here on our previous row. So when you're ready to complete the end of row 4, you will then meet back up with me. So we'll be back in just a moment. Now here at the end of row 4, I have just completed my second repeat. So I have 4 single crochets worked into that back loop. We now start our repeat again for just this 1 stitch. We've got 2 stitches left. So right here in the very next stitch, my repeat begins with 1 single crochet worked in that back loop. There's 1. And now, since I am here at the end of the row, I know I must do my traditional single crochet, making sure I'm under that V in the very last stitch of the row. And then we chain up and bind off. We're moving on to row 5. This is what your work is looking like after completing row 4. We are now going to begin row 5 by switching over to color A. So we're going to insert there into that very first stitch in the row, making sure that we're not working in to that chain 1. We add a slip knot with color A, or made with color A, onto our hook. We draw up that loop, chain 1, go back down here into the same exact first stitch and finish out our traditional single crochet. We now begin the repeat for row 5. Row 5's repeat begins with 5 drop down double crochets. So we wrap our yarn around our hook, identify our next stitch, slide down 2 rows below, finding this first little bump. It's our front loop. I'm going to find that, pick that up, grab and pull up a loop, nice loose tension, grab and pull through 2, grab and pull through 2. So we got to do a total of 5 of these. So that's our first one. So we wrap again, identify the next stitch, and complete our second. There's number 2. Wrap again, identify the next stitch, slide down. Here's number 3. Identify the next stitch. We've wrapped. We're going to slide down. Oops, try not to do that. Sorry, you guys. Wrap. Slide down. This is our 4th on our double crochet. Worked in the front loop. So there's number 4. Wrap one last time. Slide down. Find our little bump. Grab and pull up a loop, grab and pull through 2, grab and pull through 2. So that's 5 drop down double crochets. Now our repeat continues with 1 back loop only single crochet right here into this very next stitch. So we can grab and pull up a loop, grab and pull through 2. Now we are going to do 1 drop down double crochet right here into this next stitch, grab and pull up a loop, grab and pull through 2, grab and pull through 2. If you get too tight, you'll draw this up, so kind of keep that in mind. We do have to be careful of that. Sorry, got out of camera. Now we're going to do 3 of our single crochets worked into the back loop. So we're going to identify our very next stitch and do 1, 2, and 3. Now we do 1 drop down double crochet, our repeat continues with 1 single crochet worked in that back loop only. And now we're going to end the repeat by doing 4 of our drop down double crochets over these next 4 stitches. So we wrap our yarn around our hook, identify this very next stitch and slide down 2 rows below, picking up that loop. Now we grab and pull up a loop, grab and pull through 2, grab and pull through 2. That's 1. We need to do a total of 4. So here's number 2. Wrap again. We're going to do number 3. Wrap again. We're going to do number 4. And that ends our repeat for this row. So we're going to continue working this exact same manner on down the rest of our row. We're going to begin our repeat again by doing 5 of our drop downs, 1 back loop, 1 drop down, 3 back loops, 1 drop down, 1 back loop, 4 of our drop downs. So you'll just start back over and do these 5 double crochets again, working in that front loop, dropping down. So just keep working that exact same manner all the way down the rest of your project. And we'll meet back up in just a moment when you are ready to move on to the end of the row. We'll do that one last time together, just so everybody's got it. We're going to be starting our repeat in that second to last stitch. So let's pause here, meet back up with me in just a moment. We're now at the end of row 5, and for the end of row 5, as you can see, I've completed my second repeat. So I have those 4 drop down double crochets. I have 2 stitches left in the row. You're going to find this is exactly what you're going to have each and every single row. So we just begin our repeat again for 1 stitch. So that means I'm going to wrap my yarn around my hook, drop down and do my double crochet there in that front loop. And now the last stitch in the row, we are going to do our traditional single crochet. Now you can bind off. We'll move on up to row number 6. Row 6 begins now, and we are going to be joining on with color B this time, and this is what your work is looking like. So we are just going to simply pop in there, do our traditional single crochet in the first stitch of the row. So we identify that first V, making sure we are not working into that little turning chain, or chain 1 is what it actually is. So we just jump in here, add on our color B, pull up a loop. Now we just chain 1, go back into that same first stitch and finish out that traditional single crochet. Our repeat for row 6 begins now. We're going to do 5 of our single crochets worked in the back loop. So we're working all these stitches in the back loop that we're doing now. So we're doing 5 back loop only single crochets. So there's 1, here's 2, 3, 4, 5, 'Now we do 1 drop down double crochet right here into this next stitch, dropping 2 rows below, finding that little bump. Complete your drop down. Now we're going to do back loop only single crochet, 1 drop down, nice loose tension. Remember that we need that loose tension. Now we will do 1 single crochet in that back loop, 1 drop down in the next stitch, one back loop, single crochet, and 1 drop down double crochet. Now we continue this repeat with 4 of our back loop only single crochets. So there's 1, 2, 3, and 4. And that ends our repeat. So we're going to recap that real quick. Our repeat began over here with our 5 back loop only single crochets. Then we did 1 drop, 1 back loop, 1 drop, 1 back loop, 1 drop, 1 back loop, 1 drop. We ended our repeat with the 4 back loop only single crochets. This section right here, to help you remember the way I do this, is I count how many of these drops I need, and I know they're going to be each separated with the back loop only single crochet. So I know I need 4. So when I get to this part of the repeat again, I just am counting these and separating with my single crochet worked in the back loop. If that helps you, I hope it does. But you're going to pause here, and we will be meeting back up when you are ready to move on to row number 7. The end of your row, you're going to come down here. You're going to have 2 stitches left. So our very last stitch and the one right beside it, you will be starting your repeat again in this second to last stitch, and then doing your traditional single crochet right here into this stitch. So we will be pausing, coming back for row number 7. We're back for row number 7. We have joined on with color A this time in the first stitch of the row. We will now begin the repeat for this row. Our repeat begins with 1 drop down double crochet here into the very next stitch. Slide down, pick up that bump, grab and pull up a loop, and grab and pull up a loop. Now we will continue with 5 single crochets worked in that back loop. So there's number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, and number 5. Now we will do 1 drop down double crochet right here into this next stitch, sliding down 2 rows below, finding that little bump, grab and pull through 2, grab and pull through 2. Now we'll do 9 back loop only single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. This ends your repeat for this row. So the repeat for row number 7 began over here with 1 drop down double crochet, followed by 5 back loop only single crochets, 1 drop, and 9 back loops. So now we'll be working the rest of that repeat, and we'll be coming back when you're ready to move on to row number 8. So you can pause here. We will be back in just a moment. Just real quick, we're here at the end of row 7, and again, just like I explained before, we are going to start our repeat for the very next stitch to the last. So we just drop down in this case because our repeat begins with a drop down, and then our last stitch right here, don't let it hide from you, you want to grab and do a traditional single crochet in that very last stitch, and then you just chain up and bind off. Row 8 begins now. We've switched back over to color B and done our traditional single crochet here in the very first stitch of the row. Now we're going to begin our repeat for row number 8, which begins with 1 single crochet work there in that back loop. So we just begin with our back loop only single crochet. So there's number 1. Now we're going to do 1 drop down double crochet right here in this very next stitch. Grab and pull up a loop, grab and pull through 2, grab and pull through 2. We're going to continue with 3 back loop only single crochets over the next 3 stitches. There's number 1. Here is number 2. Number 3. Now we will do 1 drop down double crochet here in this very next stitch. Slide down, finding that little bump, grab and pull up a loop, grab and pull through 2, grab and pull through 2. We will now do 1 back loop only single crochet right here into this very next stitch, followed by 1 drop down double crochet right here into this next stitch. Let me make sure I'm in camera. Now we will do 7 back loop only single crochets over these next 7 stitches. Here's number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And we will end our repeat with one drop down double crochet right here into this next stitch. Let's recap what we have done. So our repeat began over here with this single crochet worked into the back loop. Then we did our drop down double crochet, 3 back loop only single crochets, 1 drop down, 1 back loop, 1 drop down, 7 back loops, and our repeat ends with 1 drop down double crochet. So please pause here and come back and meet up with me when you are ready to move on to row number 9. Keep in mind that when you get down here to the end of your row, you're going to have 2 stitches left. You start your repeat again in the second to last stitch, and then you end your row with your traditional single crochet. So we'll be back in just a moment for row number 9. Row 9 will begin now. I just want to show you real quick. I've added a little stitch marker right here to my work. This is the end of my first repeat. This is something that you guys can do to help yourselves, especially if you're doing a larger project. You can mark the ends of your repeat so that you can kind of use that as a visual marker for yourself, so you don't have to focus so hard on remembering the count that you're on. Obviously you do have to remember your stitches, but you'll begin to see a pattern in the work that you're doing. So these little stitch markers added in can really help you out, at least for me anyway. So we are beginning row 9 by joining on with color A again. I've already completed the traditional single crochet in the first stitch. We now do our first stitch of the repeat. So our repeat for row 9 begins right now. We're doing a drop down double crochet right here into this very next stitch. Pull through 2 and pull through 2. Now we continue with 1 back loop only single crochet. We're going to do 1 drop down double crochet right here into this very next stitch. We're going to do 3 back loop only single crochets. There's 1. Here's number 2, number 3, 1 drop down double crochet here into this very next stitch. Now we will do 7 of our back loop only single crochets. So there's 1. Here's number 2, number 3, number 4, oops, try not to split your yarn like I'm doing. So it's number 5, number 6, and number 7. Move that little stitch marker out of my way. Now we'll do a drop down double crochet. And our repeat will end with 1 of our back loop single crochets. That ends the repeat for this row. And as you can see, stitch marker right here. So that's a visual sign that I'm ending that repeat. So let's recap that real quick. We began the repeat for row 9 with a drop down, our back loop only single crochet, 1 drop down, 3 back loop only single crochets, 1 drop down, 7 back loops, 1 drop down, and we end with 1 back loop single crochet. So we will pause here and you will move on down the rest of your row, completing that repeat over and over until you have ended your row. Remember, your row end, you're going to be starting the repeat over for 1 stitch, and then you will be able to continue the end of the row with your traditional single crochet in the very last stitch. That's going to be the same for every single row. So pause and we'll be back in just a moment. Row 10 begins now. We have joined on with color B in the first stitch of the row with our traditional single crochet. Our repeat for row 10 begins now. We're going to begin with a back loop only single crochet right here into the very next stitch. Now we're going to have 1 drop down double crochet right here into this very next stitch. So we're just sliding down 2 rows below. We're going to do another back loop only single crochet, followed by 1 drop down double crochet, we need 1 back loop only single crochet next, 1 drop, 1 back loop, 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 and our repeat ends with 1 drop down double crochet. So let's recap our repeat. So our repeat began over here with our back loop only single crochet, then we did our 1 drop down double crochet, and then we did back loop, drop, 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 back loop, drop. So we repeated that a total of 8 times. You're going to have 8 of these drop downs separated by the back loop only single crochet, so you can count them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, and that 8th one ends your repeat. So that's kind of a visual signal for you. It's a pretty easy repeat, so you'll pause. We'll be meeting back up when you are ready to move on to row number 11. Your work is really going to start to take shape now, so you can see what we're doing. Row number 11 is about to begin. This is what your work is looking like after you finish the first 10 rows. So we are at our halfway point now. We're going to be going up, I believe, to row 19 is going to be our last row. So we need to join on color A now. So you're going to join color A to the first stitch in the row, doing your traditional single crochet. Our repeat for row number 11 begins now, and it's going to be really similar to what we did down here on row 10. We're going to do a back loop only single crochet a drop down right here into this very next stitch. So we will begin by doing our drop down, sliding down 2 rows below. Now we will do our back loop only single crochet. And we're going to repeat those same 2 stitches all the way down the rest of this repeat. So we will be doing another drop down right here into the very next stitch. One back loop. One drop down. 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 And one back loop ends the repeat. So we're going to keep working in that exact same manner all the way down the rest of the row. You're going to have a total, each repeat, you're going to have a total of 8 drop downs, just like we did on the row before, but this time they're in color A. So keep working in that same exact manner all the way down the rest of your row. Your repeat begins again with a drop down. And then we do our back loop, and we just keep doing those same 2 stitches all the way down. When you get to the end of your row, you'll have room to complete the first stitch of the repeat, and then you'll be doing your traditional single crochet. So hopefully this one is super easy for you. So pause and keep working in that exact same manner all the way down the rest of your row, and we'll meet back up for row number 12. This is what your work is looking like after completing row number 11. I think it's really starting to take shape now, so I hope you guys are excited to see what it looks like and watch it come to life. So now we're going to move on to row number 12. Row number 12 is done in color B, so we've switched back over to color B, and we've done our traditional single crochet in the first stitch of the row. Now our repeat for row number 12 begins with one back loop single crochet, so we're working here in the back loop. We want to pick that up and complete a single crochet in the back loop. Now we're going to do one drop down double crochet. So right here, very next stitch, we slide down 2 rows below, find that little bump. Sorry, my tail's in the way. We complete our drop down double crochet. Now we're going to do a back loop only single crochet into the very next stitch, and we're going to do a drop down double crochet into the next stitch. Are you guys kind of picking up on what we're doing here? Pretty much same thing that we just did 2 rows for the last 2 rows. So we're going to be doing our drop down back loop, drop down back loop. We're going to have a total of 8 of these drop downs in the first repeat. So keep working in this exact same manner all the way down the rest of your row. I'm going to, of course, complete the repeat with you. So I just did another drop down. So I've got a total of 3. Each is separated by a back loop only single crochet. So now we'll do our drop down, or our back loop again. Drop down. Back loop only single crochet, drop down, double crochet. You can see I messed up. I used that front loop, so I just dropped in and grabbed something else on that just to finish it up. That's okay. You can fake it. Back loop, drop down, back loop, drop down, back loop, and last but not least, end the repeat with one drop down. These rows are super easy. It really does feel like it's very easy to me. All right, so let's talk about what we did here. We did our back loop, began our repeat. So our back loop, single crochet, then we did a drop, back loop, 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 drop. So we repeated that a total of 8 times. We end up with 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of our drop down double crochets. But because we're just alternating between those 2 stitches, yes, this is one repeat of it, but you could technically just work in your back loop, single crochet, drop down, double crochet, all the way down the rest of the row rather mindlessly. You're going to be connecting to the blue, and it just works out perfect. So every time you get to a previous row where you have your back loop only single crochet, you know you're doing a drop down on that one. When you're on top of your double crochet from the previous row, you know you need to do a back loop, single crochet. So keep working that exact same manner all the way down the rest of your row. Pause here and meet back up with me when you're ready to move on to row number 13. Here's what our work is looking like after completing row number 12. Were we on 12? Yes, 12 after completing row number 12. Sorry. As you can tell, I'm not a professional YouTuber or a professional teacher, just like all of you. So we're now moving on to row 13. We're going to be joining on with color A this time, and that happens right here in the first stitch of the row. So, sorry, let's get into camera. So we're into that very first stitch. We make sure we're not working into that chain 1. This is just a refresher for those. I do get a request to try to put this in some more in the videos. So we just draw up that loop. We chain 1. We go back down there into that very first stitch. I'm going to kind of pull on this tail to straighten that back out. Grab and pull up a loop. Grab and pull through 2. Traditional single crochet is complete. So row 13's repeat is different this time. We're not going to just be doing the same 2 stitches. So we begin the repeat for row 13 by doing 1 of our drop downs. So we're going to drop down right here and do our double crochet. There's number 1. Now here into this very next stitch, we're going to pick up that back loop only and do our single crochet. Very next stitch, we're going to slide down 2 rows below and pick up that front loop and finish our double crochet. Now we're going to do a total of 7 single crochets worked in that back loop. So there's 1, here's 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, number 6, and number 7. Now we're going to complete a drop down double crochet right here into this very next stitch. Three back loop only single crochets over the next 3 stitches. Working on that back loop. There's 1. Here's number 2. And here's number 3. Now we're going to do a drop down double crochet. And we are going to do 1 back loop only single crochet right there into that very next stitch to end that repeat. So our repeat will begin again when we do our drop down double, back loop, drop, 7 back loops, 1 drop, 3 back loops, 1 drop, 1 back loop. So you're just going to pause, continue to work in that exact same manner on down the rest of your row, doing those same set of stitches until you reach the end. And then of course you're going to have 2 stitches left. You'll start your repeat for 1 stitch, and then you will continue right along to the end of your row with a single crochet, traditional single crochet in that last stitch. Row 14 begins now. This is what our work is looking like after completing row 13. You can really see the design now. So we begin row 14 by doing our traditional single crochet in color B. Now all we need to do is a back loop single crochet right there into the very next stitch. Work into that stitch. We do 1 drop down, coming down there 2 rows below, finding that little bump, finishing that up. Now we're going to do a total of 7 back loops. So 7 single crochets worked in the back loop only over the next 7 stitches. So there's 1. Here's number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, number 6, number 7, number 7 is it, sorry. Now we do a drop down double crochet right here into the very next stitch. And we'll follow this by doing 5 back loop only single crochets over the next 5 stitches. There's 1, here's 2, number 3, number 4, and number 5. And we're going to not split our yarn, and our repeat ends with 1 drop down double crochet right here into this very next stitch. That ends our repeat. So we're going to recap that. The repeat began over here with 1 drop or 1 back loop only single crochet, 1 drop, 7 back loops, 1 drop, this 5 back loops, 1 drop. So you're just going to keep working that exact same manner all the way down the rest of the row. So please pause here, meet back up with me when you are ready to move on to row number 15. Remember, end of the row, we just restart that repeat for this second to last stitch right here. And then our last stitch is always our traditional single crochet. And now that we've got some work done, I'm going to show you. If you didn't have all those tails, you'd have a nice, even, straight side. So we'll be back in just a moment to move on to row 15. This is what our work is looking like after finishing row 14. We're now moving on to row 15. I've joined on with color A in the first stitch of the row. Our repeat for row 15 begins immediately. We're going to do 1 drop down double crochet right here into this very next stitch. Grab and pull up a loop, grab and pull through 2, grab and pull through 2. Now we're going to do a back loop only single crochet. We're going to do actually 9 of those. So there's 1, here's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Now we're going to do 1 drop down double crochet, followed by 5 of our back loop only single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And that ends our repeat. So let's recap that real quick. We begin over here with a drop down double crochet, 9 back loop only single crochets across this section, 1 drop down, and our repeat ends with the 5 back loop only single crochets. So now we're just going to begin our repeat again and work in the same repeat on down the rest of your row, doing that over and over. And then of course your row will end with starting your repeat in the very the stitch before the last stitch. So we're going to do a repeat starts again here, and then traditional single crochet in the last stitch. We're here at the end of row 15. Since I kept stumbling that up, I just wanted to show you guys I've completed a second repeat. I have 5 back loop only single crochets. Now we're going to begin our repeat again with 1 drop down double crochet, and then we know we can't continue. We have our back loop only, or our traditional single crochet to do right here in the very last stitch of the row. Now we chain up 2, clip our yarn, and bind off. We're moving on to row 16. We're joining on with color B this time. This is what your work is looking like, and we are starting out our repeat now. So we have our traditional single crochet in the first stitch. We now begin by doing 5 of our back loop only single crochets. So we're going to insert right here into the very next stitch, picking up that back loop only, doing our back loop single crochet. So there's 1, here's 2, we're doing a total of 5, 3, 4, and 5. We now need to do 1 drop down double crochet into this very next stitch. Identify your next stitch, slide down, finding that little bump. We're going to do 1 back loop only single crochet here into the very next stitch, followed by 1 drop down, one back loop, one drop down, one back loop, and one drop down. Now we need to do 4 of our back loop only single crochets to end this repeat. So we're going to identify our very next stitch, and I'm kind of going to pull out some yarn to make sure we're nice and straight, going in doing 4 back loop only single crochets to end our repeat. There's 2, here's number 3, and here's number 4. That ends our repeat for this row. So for row 16, our repeat began over here, and we did 5 of our back loop only single crochets. Then we did 4 drops separated by a back loop. So we did drop, back loop, drop, back loop, drop, back loop, drop. and then our repeat ended with 4 back loop only single crochets. So we're going to keep working in that exact same manner all the way down the rest of row 16. You will meet back up with me when you're ready to move on to row 17. Remember, what we've done over here is how this will end over here. We're going to get here to the end of the row, and we are going to finish our repeat right about here, and we will have these 2 stitches left. So you'll start your repeat again, and then you will do your very last stitch in the row as your traditional single crochet. So hopefully that's nice and clear and helpful. So pause here, and we will be back for row 17. Row 17 begins now. We are moving back to color A this time. Of course, I've already joined on. We're going to begin our repeat immediately. We're going to be doing 5 drop down double crochets over these next 5 stitches. So let's wrap our yarn, identify our next stitch, slide down 2 rows below, and complete that drop down double crochet. So that's number 1. Now we have to do number 2. Number 3. Number 4. And number 5. Now we need 1 back loop single crochet, 1 drop down double crochet, we're going to do 3 of our back loop single crochet. So there's number 1, pull out a little more yarn, number 2, and number 3, followed by 1 drop down, we will do 1 of our back loop single crochets. Now we need to end our repeat by doing 4 drop downs over these next 4 stitches. So we're just going to slide down 2 rows below, picking up that bump, finish our first drop. Here is our second, third, and fourth. And that ends our repeat for this row. So row 17's repeat began over here with 5 drop down double crochets, 1 back loop, 1 drop, 3 back loops, 1 drop, 1 back loop, 4 drops. So you'll just start over on your repeat again. So we'll be starting with our 5 drop downs and continuing on with our repeat just as we have completed, and then we'll be moving right on along to row number 18. So you can pause here and meet back up with me when you're ready to move on to row 18. Here's what our work is looking like after completing row 17. We're now moving on to row 18 with color B. And keep in mind, 18 and 19, those are our final rows. So we are at the home stretch. So we're going to begin our repeat for row 18 now. So I'm going to lower my camera down so you guys can see a little bit better. Our repeat for row 18 begins with 5 of our back loop single crochets. So we're going to be working in that back loop only, doing a single crochet. Pick up your back loop in the very next stitch, complete that single crochet. So we have 5 of these to do. That's our first one. Here's number 2. Tail out of the way. 3. 4. And 5. Now we need to do 1 drop down double crochet in the very next stitch. followed by 5 back loop single crochets. There's 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5. Now we will do 1 drop down double crochet right here into the very next stitch. And we will end our repeat by doing 4 back loop only single crochets over the next 4 stitches. Here's number 2, number 3, oops, helps if you grab your yarn, and number 4. That ends our repeat for row 18. So let's recap that real quick. Our repeat begins over here with 5 back loop only single crochets, 1 drop, 5 back loop, 1 drop, 4 back loop. So you'll keep working that exact same manner all the way down the rest of your row. We'll meet back up for row 19, our final row, in just a moment. This is what our work's looking like after completing row 18. We are now moving on to row 19. You're going to switch over in color A, and I'm going to drop the camera down so you can see exactly what we're doing. We've joined on with color A and done our traditional single crochet in the very first stitch. Now we're going to begin doing the repeat for row 19, and our repeat for row 19 is 5 of our drop down double crochet. So here's our very first one in the next stitch. Here's 1, number 2, number 3, four, and 5. Now we will do 7 back loop only single crochets over the next 7 stitches. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Now we will end the repeat with 4 drop down double crochets. So just slide down 2 rows below. Here's our first drop. So there's 1. Here's 2. Number 3. And number 4. That ends our repeat for row 19. So our repeat began with our 5 drop downs, 7 back loops, 4 drop downs. So it's really easy repeat. So let's start that again, finish out this row together. We're going to start our repeat again with 5 drop downs. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now we do 7 of our back loops. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Our repeat ends with 4 of our drop downs. So we're doing our 4 double crochets in the front loop. There's 1, Here's 2. Wrap again. Number 3. And number 4. That ends our repeat for this row. So for those of you with a bigger piece working on a much larger project, you're going to continue on down. For the rest of us, if you're working a swatch same size as me, we're going to finish up this row in together, since this is our very last row and we are done. So we have our end of our repeat here. We have 2 stitches left. We're going to start our repeat again. We're going to do our drop down that begins this repeat. There's 1. And then our last stitch in the row is our traditional single crochet. And now we just bind off. We have finished this pattern. Hopefully you've enjoyed this tutorial. I do appreciate your time in watching. As always, thank you, thank you, thank you. I do really appreciate it. If you have any questions at all, please feel free to leave me a comment down below. For those of you who are going to keep working multiple repeats of this pattern, and this is 1 full repeat of the pattern, if you're going to continue up for additional repeats of this pattern, doing a much larger project like a blanket or something, or a throw pillow, you're going to rewind back to row number 2 to move on to the next repeat of this pattern. So you'll work rows 2 through 19 over and over and over until you've reached the desired size of your project. With the tutorial pattern chart set, there is a variation on this that brings this design where it's inset here. So that's something for some of you, if you don't want them just stacked on top of each other, that is shown in the chart set on Etsy. I could not do a tutorial. It would cause me to have to do a lot more rows to show you guys how to keep repeating that way. So I do apologize, but hopefully you've enjoyed this tutorial. Hopefully you love this design as much as I do. Until next time, as always, everyone take care and see you again real soon. Bye for now.